Hi, I'm Catherine Llewellyn, the host of the podcast. You can find out all about Truth and Transcendence on truthandtranscendence.com. And you can find out all about me on beingspace.world, where you will find my online coaching offering, as well as my UK-based workshops. The Freedom of Spirit workshop for liberation and empowerment, the Pellower Radical Shift in Consciousness workshop for spiritual expansion, and transformational coaching for exploring the mind-body-spirit connection on the expansive path. You can also support the podcast by actually making a donation. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. I'm very happy to welcome today special guest Leighton Campbell, who's come on today to talk about positive choices and other really important things too, but that's where we're going to start. Leighton is a devoted husband, father of 4, a successful entrepreneur, a world traveller and Amazon best-selling author. And he invites us all to join him on the path to discovering true happiness. And you can find Leighton at yourhappinesseq.com. That's yourhappinesseq.com. And that will be in the show notes. So Leighton, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Excellent. Well, you've been very present on social media, talking about your work with happiness and really getting out there and talking to all sorts of people. And when we met before, we were talking about how the theme of positive choices has been very present for you in your life. Would you like to give us a bit of the origin story of that? You know, how your connection with positive choices came to be for you?
Sure. I think the book and me making positive choices in my life and all of that really just stems from my upbringing, really, where I come from an immigrant household. We're originally from Jamaica. We're, here in the States, and I've been in the States pretty much all my life. And part of that is making a way when there is no way and making a lot out of a little. And all of that really stems from just a positive mindset. There's more to it than positive mindset, but positive mindset is definitely a part of it. And I can think of many instances in my life where I have been faced with a choice and choosing to go the positive route was what I chose, and it had created many benefits for myself. Haven't always chosen the positive route, but at my best and when I'm, aware and intentional, that it happens to be the way that my life has gone.
Yeah, fantastic. So what do you think it was? Because in the situation you described, being generationally being relatively new to the country, and as you say, making your way, making something out of very little. What do you think it was that allowed you to take the approach of taking positive choices rather than going the victim route, for example?
Sure. I would say that would be the role model or the example that was set by my mother, essentially. My parents divorced when I was 13 years old. There were 6 children involved. My father left, and I didn't see him for probably another 25 years after that. So my mother basically raised us, and we didn't come from money, didn't have money. It was very difficult. And seeing her example of, we can choose to wallow in the difficulties that are here, or we can look and see the opportunity that we have, especially, being in America, because Jamaica at that time was extremely difficult when they left. They had a lot of political upheaval and the economy was suffering. It was just kind of a night and day difference. So even though there were challenges here, there was still tremendous opportunity. So that example that she set along the way and different stages of our life as well too, it was just a constant theme, and it was impossible to not learn from that because it wasn't really a spoken lesson. It was a lesson that I saw and I saw her live out. And if you're paying attention, and then you also find yourself in challenging situations, which we all do, to not draw from that is kind of difficult.
Yeah, you'd have had to work at it not to be affected by that. She must have been a phenomenal woman. Is she still with us?
Oh yeah, very much so. I just sent her a text message before I got on. I have a book signing this Saturday, and she's trying to help get people there. She's amazing. Yes, she stays with us. Thank God.
And like a bit of a dynamo. And that's also extraordinary because not only was she dealing with being in this new environment without a lot of resources, she'd been left by her husband with 6 children. And now that on its own, even if you have all the income you could require, that on its own, a lot of people would decide that's a good enough reason to go the victim route. So that's even more impressive.
It's her story is probably better than my story because of the things that she's had to overcome. And yeah, it's pretty amazing what she's done. And I know there was a time I had graduated college. Okay. So I'm a college graduate in the United States, well educated. I had a job. And at the end of the month of like one of my first months of working after college, I look and see what money I had left and the responsibilities that I have. And I call my mom. I said, Mom, I have no idea how you do it. It's myself, one person with a decent check. And I don't know. I'm kind of close to not being able to make everything work. How did you do that with 6 of us and the check that was a fraction of what I got? It it's miraculous. So
What does she say?
I don't particularly remember, but I would imagine that she would have said, God got us through it. I relied on my faith and she had support system in terms of family here, but it wasn't a situation where anyone agreed to, hey, we're sponsoring you. You need anything, you call us. It's it's a fight to do as much as you can on your own. And then when you get to the end of that, now you're just working through the next level of stuff until you get the need met. So it's kind of that situation.
Well, extraordinary. Yeah, and I just think that's such a fantastic reminder for any of us. No matter how difficult we might feel life is, we can always decide to make positive choices and be that example for other people. Because otherwise you can get a generational downward spiral, can't you? Or and you're describing the generational upward spiral, where the example she gave you was so encouraging, and it's lovely the way you describe it, and watching you describe it because the warmth in your description of your mother is so strong, that it's just delightful. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
So how did that kind of then roll through in your life, your connection with making positive choices? How did that then help you along the way and along your path?
Yeah, it's just my life I don't think is much different than many other people. We all have stories. We all have challenges, some very significant challenges for myself and other people. And going through this process of writing a book, having people read it and then reach out to me and tell me their story, it has been very, very much overwhelming in a positive way because they've told me how they've gotten through different things. But as I would approach things in my life, especially the challenges, because the good things are easy to get through and navigate because everything's great and wonderful and you can't even make a bad mistake because you're choosing amongst great options. I mean, there's almost not it's almost not worth writing a book on how to choose amongst amazing options.
Yeah.
The interesting stuff is like when it's really tough and you don't know which way to go and you're choosing between seemingly bad options. That's when you really have to dig deep, rely on the things that were instilled in you and so on. So I can think of many, many things. When I was in college, again, not coming from a family of money and needing to, first of all, pay for college, and second of all, set myself up for college. I was approached by a company that said, look, you work with us. We will teach you skills that will be invaluable to you and you'll make It'll make you set you up for success for the rest of your life. Plus, you'll make a lot of money while you're in college. It's door-to-door sales. It's extremely difficult. People will not like you, but if you'll meet many people who do like you, but you'll meet a lot that don't. And if you do this program successfully, it'll really set you up for the rest of your life. So again, going back to my upbringing, I'm like, well, what would my mom do? And now, this is not a conscious thought that I had. It's just in retrospect, looking at it, what would my mom do? And it's like I can't go back home to her and be a burden on her. If anything, I need to help out in any way that I can. So this is a great opportunity. It sounds like a scam and a cult, but they're on my University of Florida campus and they were sanctioned by the university to be there. So I'm like, that's got to mean, so maybe it's legitimate. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it and I'm going to do my best at it and see what happens. And it turns out that was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I did the program for 4 summers. I made a ton of money, plenty of money to pay for college. I actually made enough money one summer to give my mom a down payment for a house to buy her first house. So you talk about you instilling values into other people, and then reciprocity, not because it was a transactional thing, but you blessed me in a way to make the right decisions and to succeed in a difficult situation, and then a blessing comes back your way. And many of my other siblings, I come again, 6 of us, and many of them have also blessed her in different ways, and she's doing very well now. But it was a process to get there. But that was an example of choosing. I could have done nothing like a lot of the kids I went to college with, or I could have put myself out there, work 90 hours a week over the summer, take cold showers, knock on doors in a remote part of the country. And I was like, well, one is going to get me the results that a lot of people are going to get, and which is not much. And the other, not many people are going to do, but if I can do it and do it well, it's going to potentially set me up for the rest of my life. And it did.
Well, amazing. Well, having been involved in sales myself in the past, uh, there's something, it's very challenging on the level of literally just character, isn't it? Just being able to keep going and not biting people's heads off because the last person was rude and all of that. So you must have had quite a strong capacity, I suppose, because I assume you were out there on your own, were you?
Oh yeah, by
By
myself.
yourself. Yeah. So you weren't coming back every night to a team of people sitting around the fire, chatting and drinking beers, encouraging each other. So you had to go day after day on your own, knocking on doors, which is one of the most difficult sales roles ever.
It's pretty tough. Fortunately, we did come back to what we would call our headquarters of other people who were doing the same thing. But during the daytime, when you were working, you were by yourself.
Oh, I see. So you were able to connect in with other people at the end of the day.
Yes, yes. At the end of the day, we were, yeah.
Well,
But it's very, it's very challenging nonetheless.
yeah.
And you really find out what you're made of. And one of the mottos or the things that they say in that company is they help young people build character, to your point of character, because that you'll really find out what you're made of doing something like that.
Yeah. And I suppose if you're running a business like that, that's what you have to do. Otherwise, you're just going to be burning everybody out and losing your soul in the process.
Very much so.
And I was involved in a marketing operation where it was about telephone marketing. And there's some commonalities with the knocking on the door thing. And we realized the only way we could do it and be successful and also live with ourselves is if we turned it into a developmental experience for everybody. And
You're definitely developing for sure.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. You develop, even if you're in pain half the time, you're still developing. But you come out of it with some skills, and then there's going to be less pain next time we have a challenge. Yeah.
You get better at it, like surprisingly. It's weird how that works, but there's a lot of lessons that I took from that whole experience. And again, because kind of like I said, the trajectory of my life, how I was able to write a book, it's, I took experiences from my childhood. I took experiences from my time at Southwestern, which was very formidable in my life. And then other times and other things that I've been through, it just all kind of brought me to this point.
Yeah. So how did you end up starting to write a book?
So it's a story of a conversation that I had with my children during COVID. So, like almost everyone else in the world, they were separated, and their normal life routines were upended. So they were separated from their friends. They were separated from their extended family, and I could see that it was having an impact on their emotions and their happiness level and their affect and all of that. So again, tying to another theme, it's one thing to like talk to your children about something because sometimes that's received, sometimes it's not. Is this another lecture? Are you droning on? So I'm conscious of that, and I try to, when I think I'm going to get that kind of resistance, I try and be more creative. So I saw that was going on with them, and I was like, hey guys, let's see if we can create an equation to measure happiness. And it was just like a random thought. It wasn't a random thought because I could see what was going on with them, but the way to approach that was kind of came out of nowhere. It wasn't premeditated. I hadn't been thinking about this at all. It was just spur of the moment. Let's come up with an equation to see if we can measure happiness. So they were up for doing it, and they were like, okay. So they start throwing out ideas. They're getting into it. I'm kind of quarterbacking it. And then at the end of probably a 30-minute conversation, I look down at what I have and I'm like, this is really uh, good. There's something there. I don't know where this can go, but it seems like we're on to something. I'm saying this to myself because they had moved on at the point. So,
Just tell me how old your children were at this point.
okay, so this is 4 years ago, 5 years ago, because COVID was 5 years. So my oldest son was 13, my daughter would have been 9, and then my youngest son was 8. My stepson would also have been 8, but he wasn't in the conversation at the time. But so those were the ages.
Thank you. That helps because the mentality of children at different ages changes, doesn't it? And I
Sure.
completely get what you're saying about being careful about how you approach it with them so that they're not going to feel like, it's dad trying to tell us off or trying to give us the benefit of his wisdom. We don't want dad's wisdom anymore.
Exactly. I get my fair share of that, but I have my ways to work through their defense.
Well done. Hey, well done. So his next good book going to be about, parenting adolescence.
Oh, geez. No, I need to read several books and encyclopedia set on parenting. I've done what I can do, and I think I've done it. I've meant well. I just don't know sometimes how effective I've been.
Yeah, well, I think that's how you can tell a good parent because that's what they say. That the only people who think they've definitely been really good parents are the bad parents. In
The
my
bad ones.
opinion.
Yeah, I could see that.
Fantastic. So what happened then?
So I have this kind of really rough equation, right? And at the time, I was in a business networking group and I was the educational coordinator of that group. So every week we were responsible for bringing an educational topic to the group. I would get 4 minutes out of an hour and a half long meeting. I'd be given 4 minutes that I can talk to the group about an educational topic. It could be on life, it could be on business, it could be on resources that they didn't know existed, just anything that would uplift the members. Now, keep in mind, this is COVID time. So everyone, not only children, are struggling with some of these issues. So I do a presentation on your happiness equation and I kind of lay out the formula and I talk about each of the variables. There's 7 of them. And at the end of the meeting, I'm blown away. Almost everybody in the chapter, they come up to me, they call me, text me, email me how impactful it was. Some open up to me, and it was really kind of moving. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting to never talk about it again. It was a thing I had with my kids. I talked about it in my group. There's nothing more to talk about. I just got to go back to my regular life. But, there were other plans. And after getting that response, I was like, I probably need to do something with this. So the next 3.5 years, I took writing the book. And after it was written, book tour, and promotions, and here we are. So that's kind of the origin story.
How extraordinary. So did you have to give up what were you doing? What was your main work at the time when this started?
Yeah, my main work at the time and now is still I own a commercial insurance agency, and you know, thank God I have flexibility in my schedule to be able to do certain things. Now, when I was writing the book, it didn't really affect my schedule at all because all I did was write. I took 2 hours out of each week. I took an hour on Tuesday and an hour on Saturday every week, and I focused on writing. And sometimes I would have these moments just because I had an opening in my schedule where I could do more, but I committed to at least 2 hours a week. And really, again, not knowing where it would go, but you do that for a long enough time, you have a manuscript, and it's like, okay, well, I've just invested all this time to getting this, and I really think I have something. Then it's like, okay, well, I need to get an editor, and then it's just you constantly invest more time and resources, and it makes it impossible to leave it. You can't. It's like another kid almost,
Yeah.
you know, and you have to bring it to fruition, and yeah, so that's how that happened.
How fantastic. How long did it take you to create the initial manuscripts, do you think?
It took about almost 3.5 years. So I had written another book prior to this, and a big mistake that I made with that project is I think a lot of new authors make this mistake is they write what they feel is a great book, and maybe it is. And they think just because you've written something great that the world is going to find it, see the brilliance in it, and just buy it and just, knock your socks off. And that's not how it works at all. Nobody cares what you've written. Nobody cares who you are. Like you have to let people know who you are, that you exist, that you've written a project, that it's helped people, that it could possibly help them. And you need to constantly be talking about it because, at least for regular people, because if you have a platform, like a significant platform, then people just listen to you. But if you're a regular person, which I am, you have to make it known. So, after writing the book, I've taken about a year before releasing it. It was like completely finished. And I took a year before releasing it to let people know that it was coming. I had a pre-sale for about 4 months. There was a big push just to even let people know, to give itself the chance at being successful for a couple reasons. One, I want to help people and I feel it can. And I knew that beforehand because of some of the responses that I got. And then going through the process, I'm telling people what I'm working on and we're having these conversations and I'm getting the feedback of how it can help. And now that it's out in the world, I am seeing like this has helped me. I'm changed in this way and I'm doing this now. Like I'm getting these responses. So helping people is definitely the main thing. Um, Also, to invest this much in a project financially and time wise, you want the validation that you didn't waste your time. So it's like, it's not really about the money. Like I think right now my book on Amazon is $8 and I'm not making a bunch of money from it, you know. But we've sold thousands of copies, want to sell many more just because I know each one that's sold, I mean, it's out there in the world. It's someone who's interacting with it. It can impact their life. Maybe they'll gift it to someone and impact their life, and it'll just be this ripple effect that can uh, spread.
Beautiful. Well, well done you. I mean, that's also a very good reminder to people because people are saying, "Oh, I'd love to write a book, but I can't write a book. I can't find the time." But 2 hours a week, that is manageable for most people, isn't it? And if that's not manageable for somebody, then that they should be dealing with that. So, you know,
Everybody.
we should be in a position where we can put 2 hours a week into something. Again, my opinion.
I would agree. I think we spend time on other things, just social media, television, and so on, which I still do, but I block my time off in certain ways to be able to like maintain my productivity. And to give your listeners or potential authors who are listening, my manuscript at the end of the day, after it was fully edited, was about 40,000 words. And it's about 200, a 200-page book approximately. So it's not a huge book. It's very manageable for someone who wants to read it, but it is somewhat substantial. And 2 hours a week kind of got me to that point.
Yeah, fantastic. Brilliant. So I think some people listening might be thinking, well, what's in the happiness equation? I'm not going to ask you to tell us the whole thing because people need to go and get the book for that or contact you for that. But would you give us just one piece from it or one question from it? Because I've seen you interviewing people all over the place with these questions from the happiness equation. Would you select one that you feel might be an interesting one to tell us about today?
Sure. Okay, before that, I do that, I am an open book, and again, I'm trying to help people lower the bar as much as possible. So people can go on my website and answer all 7 questions for free, no credit card, no email address, and get your happiness score. And so you can know all the questions. They're all there. I'm not really gatekeeping information. Now, if you want to go deeper, yes, please buy my book and read it and let me know what you thought. But yes, so
Thank you for
there's
that.
something.
So people can go to the website and they can fill in the answers themselves and they will get a profile, a happiness equation results.
Yeah, they'll get a happiness score is what we call it, and it's a score on a 0 to 100 point scale. And what the score does, just for context, is it's not a measure of your emotional state, because in the book I talk about um, my definition for happiness, and I make a delineation between the emotion of happiness and the happiness that I'm referring to. Now, the happiness that I'm referring to is a sense of satisfaction and inner peace at the deepest level of yourself. That's what I'm referring to, and that's what this whole equation and whole project is designed for. And we do that through building structures in your life that have a byproduct of happiness, the emotion of happiness. And what I found, and in my research, is that if someone is chasing the emotion of happiness, they're almost doomed to be unhappy, because emotions are fleeting. They're here one day, they're gone the next. You make some grand effort to achieve an emotion, and when you actually receive it, it's a lot of times a letdown. It's not what you thought it was going to be. It's not as fulfilling as you thought it would have been. So that can be very problematic. But if you build structures in your life, like relationships, like systems of gratitude, like pursuing your purpose, if you're out there building those structures in your life, they are going to, by the nature of themselves, produce the emotion of happiness, and a long lasting, the deepest form of it that can really propel you like through your life. So just wanted to put that
Thank you
context
so
out.
much for that. That's very useful. Yeah.
Yeah. So one question in the of the 7 questions is, um, do you belong to any groups that are meaningful to you, and that they meet regularly? So do you belong to any groups that are meaningful to you that meet regularly? That is the second question, actually. And the idea behind that is, uh, there is in certain parts of the world kind of like an epidemic of loneliness that has happened and is to some degrees increasing, but there are forces that are pushing against that. I include myself among that, and there are many other people who are doing the same thing, and I think that is awesome. There are some stores and bookstores that are in Europe, and they're starting in America, where there's like no screens allowed. It's like you can read a book, you can have conversations, you can play board games with people. Like, meaningful interactions with people are critical to our happiness. We are communal creatures. We were designed that way. Whether people believe in God, you believe in evolution. I personally, I'm a Christian. I believe that we were created by God. That's my beliefs. But if you don't believe that and you believe that we evolved, okay, fine. Evolution created us to be communal creatures. There's a part of the way that we were made that, in order to get the best out of this life, we have to be in community with other people. And that's what that question goes to. It doesn't have to be, in terms of a group that you belong to, it doesn't have to be a formal group with, there's a president and a treasurer and you have bylaws. Like, that's not, if you have that and if that group is meaningful to you and you have meaningful interactions yes, that is good, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be you and a girlfriend and you guys do Sunday brunch a couple times a month together. That works. It could be you and a spouse, or you and a, romantic relationship, platonic relationship. It could be you and your children. It can be you and your buddies from college. All of that counts as long as you are connecting with real people in the real world. And that's another caveat, because a lot of people, and I have in my own life and just through research, it makes no sense to like try and tell people that, you shouldn't have online relationships and you shouldn't be on chat groups. Everything should be in person like it was in the old days. Like it's never happened. It's not going to happen. We're not going to get rid of technology. We're not going to be able to get the genie back in the box. I think you can and should have all those electronic relationships. All of that is awesome. Keep doing it. But carve out a part of your life to have in-person relationships with physical people that you can hug, you can shake their hand, you can look them in the eye, you can get a pat on the back, that you can have that, because we need that. And that's what that question gets to.
Beautiful. I love that question. I saw that question before in your content. When I saw that question before, and what came to mind for me is I go to a dance evening once a month.
Wow. Nice.
And it's an ecstatic dance evening, and we dance for an hour and a half. There's no talking, there's no drinking, there's no smoking. It's sober, entirely sober. And if you have to talk to someone, you have to go outside to talk to them, so it doesn't distract. And so you're dancing with people you don't even know who they are sometimes, or what their name is, but you really interact with them, you connect with them energetically. Then at the end, we all sit in a big circle and we talk for maybe anything up to 45 minutes. And we share our feelings, or we share what's going on with us, or our breakthroughs, or we announce things we're offering to the community. And this group has built over many, many years. I didn't create it. I just go and turn up over many. And some people come for a long time and then disappear and then come back years later with stories. But it is definitely a community that is very meaningful, and we are meeting together physically. And we're the dance aspect, you're not even talking, goes even beyond the sort of rational talking part. And then we sit and talk. And when I saw that in your questions, when I was researching for this, I thought, yeah, that definitely fulfills that second question.
100%. That's exactly what I meant, and what I encourage people who don't have something like that. That is a perfect example of a group that could meet that need that we have. So that's awesome that you saw that you realized that's what I was getting to. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we don't need to know, do we, before we join a group like that, or if we stay in a group, we don't need to consciously think, I have to go and do this in order to get my happiness score up, do we? We can just sort of intuitively find ourselves there, and then later on notice, hold on, this is making me really happy.
Yeah, yeah. I do think there is an element of being intentional about it for someone who has nothing, like who has no groups. Maybe you just get up and go to work and you say hi to people, but you don't have any deep connections. You come home and you're by yourself. I would say people who fall in a category like that, they should be intentional about going out and finding a group and connecting with people. Um, don't do it because you're trying to increase your happiness score. No, no. Um, do it because you are a person of value that can contribute to another person's life. You've been through things, you've experienced things, you know things that could help other people. Other people have been through things and know things that can help you. And life is just better when you can do it with people who you love, who you trust, who you respect, who feel the same way about you. Do it for all those reasons. And I talk about in the book, it can be very awkward to go out and join a new group. Like if I had to go to your dance group, um, and it would be very difficult for me in the beginning, but you do it enough and you're like, man, so and so is here. Catherine's here. That's awesome. I can't wait till I dance with her. This other person's here. I'm just gonna lose myself in dance, and we're gonna have this great conversation after. Like that's so awesome. That's really cool. So it can be very awkward. And as a heads up to people who, I talk about this in the book, and I talk about how to get over that awkward phase. Um, and it's probably worth people hearing this because I think a lot of people want to do that, but they're like afraid of doing that. The thing about groups is groups need people to exist and continue. Because, like you said, in your group, people move away, they have a life situation that they can't come anymore. Now, if that happens to enough people, that group will dissolve. So every group knows that we need new people to come in to keep our group going. So while it may be awkward for a new person, it's an answer to prayer for certain for groups to have a new person come in. You know what it's like. I mean, I do jujitsu, I do other things. I see a new person come in the door, and like my eyes brighten up. I'm just so thankful we got another person here that could potentially join our tribe if it's a fit, and that's amazing. So while it may be awkward, you are likely an answer to prayer for a lot of people. And I talk about a lot of other things, but that's one of them. People want you to come to a group, even though, and they also expect you to be awkward. They expect that you're going to be awkward.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, in our group, whenever a new person comes, we always welcome. We're delighted to have them along, and yeah, we are completely aware of the fact they might feel awkward to begin with. So we don't jump all over them and go, "Are you okay? Are you going to be, now do you want some help?" We don't do that. We just go, "No, leave them alone. Let them just float in." The woman on reception, the woman who takes the money when everyone comes in, she hands them a beautiful handmade cacao chocolate that she's made at home. And so you arrive, you're welcomed, and you're given this chocolate, and you eat this chocolate, and it's like, oh my God, this is beyond delicious. And you suddenly feel good about being there. And then you go in but you're absolutely right. There's that awkwardness, and you're absolutely right. It's not all about you. The group needs you just as you need the group.
100%, both ways.
Yeah. Fantastic. Wow. This is really fascinating. I'm not going to ask you for more of the things from the happiness equation because much though I'm just fascinated by it. And I am going to go and do the quiz, I think, and just see what it says with my happiness score. I'm going to shift the emphasis very slightly now and say, I think we can all agree there's a lot of interesting things happening in the world at the moment, worldwide. And people have different opinions about what's happening and what should be happening and who should be doing it and who shouldn't be doing it, etc. And in amongst that, there are a whole bunch of people who are trying to be part of the solution, as you are doing and as I am doing, and who are trying to provide some sort of leadership energy that helps people in the world. And some of those people listen to us and are listening to us right now as we're talking. Is there something in particular you'd like to say to those people in relationship to what we've been talking about today?
In relationship with what we're talking about today, I mean, you're leading to the question I talk about in the book, and if it's okay, I'd like to maybe touch on that because I feel that it can really, really help people. Is you should be very careful of the content and the information that you receive into your life, because the news is so negative, and that negativity is intentionally there because, again, we were wired for good things like community, but we are also wired for things like negativity. Because in order to survive in the early development of humanity, if something could kill you or significantly harm you or your tribe, you had to reserve mental bandwidth to remember that and pass that on. So we are drawn like a moth to a flame towards negativity. It's part of who we are, and you should be aware of that. So if you see yourself being consumed by the news, by negative events and so on, be aware that that is like an underlying thing that's going on, and also be aware that the people who are purveying this information are doing that to their financial benefit. So news channels, many of them are not nonprofit. They're there to make profit. And the people who run these organizations are making a lot of money. Some of them are good, some of them are probably bad. But the point is, be conscious of what is going on. So, what I personally don't watch the news. What is the news going to tell me that I don't already? I know that there's a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes certain events happen that I have to just be informed about. But I try not to lose myself in the news cycle of the day. Um, Quick story. I listen to a podcast regularly. I heard one. I had no context for it. It talked about a really at the time a very potentially dangerous um political event on a global scale. I've listened to the podcast. I'm like, oh wow, here we go. It's going to be the beginning of things unraveling. When I looked at the date of the episode, it was 9 months ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And so that event came and passed at the time. I wasn't even aware that it happened. And then when I heard it, and I'm thinking, okay, well, here we go, bracing myself for impact, it came and went and did nothing. Now, there are events that are going to do something, and it's hard to know what is what. So be as informed as you feel you need to be. And I feel I'm informed enough, but I don't let this stuff like ruin my life. And it definitely has the potential to do that.
Thank you. That's such good advice. I also do not watch the news or listen to the news for the exact same reason. And like you, I'll make sure I'm informed on certain things, but I won't then make my life about diving deep into how bad it really is,
Yeah.
because how's that going to help anybody?
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
you know, and actually, even the opposite, going the other way, I noticed when I look at who is tuning into this podcast, there are people watching and listening to it in 96 countries, some of which are war-torn countries or very disadvantaged countries. So, a bit like with you, with your wonderful book, I think with podcasting, that's another thing where we are actually offering an opportunity for people to tune into something that's uplifting, even if what's going on around them is really bad and very difficult. There's the option to tune into, as the positive aspect of looking at things.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, everybody's situation is different, of course. That was, I guess, general advice to people like in not those situations. Now, if that is the situation and I'm sure you find yourself in, yeah, there's definitely, you have to be informed more. Um, I can't speak to this myself. I've never been in a situation like that. Um, I would encourage people in those war-torn countries to find things to be thankful for. And it almost is hard for me to say it. And it's like, who am I? I'm even telling myself, who am I to say that to you? But I know it's the truth. I haven't been in war-torn countries, but I've been through very challenging things in my life. Uh, and if you read my book, you'll hear some of them. And even in those moments, I have made myself think of the things that I was thankful for. Um, you don't want to lose yourself in these dark moments, because most sometimes the dark moments pass and you want to be able to come back to yourself and not have lost yourself in that process.
Yeah. 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 Beautiful, beautiful advice. Well, I'm very thankful for this conversation with you, which has been so enjoyable. We've talked about quite a lot in this conversation. Has there been a favorite part of our conversation for you today?
Well, I liked your response to what I said about my mom. I really spoke a lot about my mom in my podcast and the book promotion stuff, but it just came up here organically. I don't really go into any of this stuff with, okay, I'm gonna have to hit these points or whatever. I just try and be an open book and say whatever is to be said. And that seemed to resonate with you, and I like resonating with people, and it's all true. So I'm glad you like that. I hope your listeners did too.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And final thing I'm going to ask you for,
Sure.
which is maybe you're just going to reinforce something you've already said, but something that's lovely to leave the listeners with is some sort of reflection question they can take away for the week. Now, obviously, the listeners can go and ask themselves all the questions in your happiness EQ, but if they don't go and do that, is there a question that you'd love to give them to take away to reflect on in the coming week?
Yeah. Um, it would be, how can you help someone in a group that you belong to? Like, if you can, over the course of the next week, think of a group that you belong to, and it could just be your family. It doesn't, again, have to be any elaborate group. Like, how can you help someone else in a group that you belong to? I would challenge your listeners to think of that, be intentional about it, and then do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Leighton. This has been such a great conversation. And thank you to all the listeners and watchers. That's all for Truth and Transcendence today. You can find our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Please give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, and share with your friends, and comment on what we were discussing today. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. And thank you very much to Leighton Campbell.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It really helps if you give a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, a review, and share with your friends. If you're looking for transformational coaching or an intensive transformational weekend workshop experience, I can help with that. You can actually help the show by making a donation. Until next time, take care.